Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive.
It's great to be back.
So today we're going to be looking at just a single piece.
Okay.
We were talking and we found this poem,
Right.
We Were Brutal, is the title. And I thought it would be interesting to just take a look at it, what it's saying and what it might mean.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. There's a lot to unpack there.
It's free verse,
Right.
so it's, not rhyming or anything like that.
Yeah, very raw and real.
Yeah, almost conversational.
Mm.
But it's powerful. So I think to start, it'd be good to hear the whole thing first.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay, we were brutal. Brutal. That's the way it was. So soft and tender, kind and benevolent. Brutal. That's the way it was. Outside, brutal and kind. Soft and tender, lovely and lovable. Inside, but too brutal, because it didn't make sense to keep a promise and to break a promise. The brutality of life, the brutality of death. The livings are soft and kind, tender and lovable. Sometimes also, maybe lovely, but brutal. Ignorance is brutal, not kind. A wall, a stone wall, a stone within a wall is kind, more kind than them. Let's go humanity. Let's be brutal and more until it's all gone. And we go back to all the places where we belong, inside or outside. We all belong somewhere, where we were, where we are, or where we will be. Brutal forever.
Wow.
Yeah. I always feel a little strange reading poetry.
Right.
But,
It's powerful, though, isn't it? Just the way it's laid out.
yeah.
Those stark words.
Yeah, and the repetition, particularly
Yeah.
of that phrase.
Brutal. That's the way it was.
Yeah, and you start off, you get hit right away with brutal,
Right.
But then it also brings in these other things, these softer, gentler ideas.
Yeah.
Like soft and tender and kind, lovable even.
It's almost like these softer qualities are trying to break through, but they keep getting pushed down by this overwhelming sense of brutality.
Exactly, and that repetition, like you said, brutal, that's the way it was, almost feels like, I don't know, a surrender to some kind of inevitable force.
It could be interpreted that way, yeah. Like, this is reality, whether we like it or not, but then it goes a bit deeper too, right?
Right.
Suggesting that this brutality, it exists both outside and inside.
Yeah, that really struck me too, that distinction between inside and outside. What do you make of that?
Well, I think on one level, it could be about the brutality we experience in the world around us, right? Like
right.
war, violence, injustice, all of those things. But then there's this internal brutality too, the
Yeah.
harshness we inflict on ourselves, through self-criticism, doubt, fear.
Right, yeah. It's like asking, is brutality just part of being human?
Yeah, it really makes you think about that, doesn't it?
And then there's those lines about promises, to keep a promise and to break a promise, the brutality of life. It's like, is it saying that even trying to do good, making promises, keeping our word can still lead to pain?
Yeah, I think it's suggesting that even our attempts at kindness or trying to create order and meaning,
Right.
those things are still subject to this kind of underlying brutality.
And then it goes on to talk about life and death too, right?
Yeah.
Describes the living as, soft and kind, but also brutal.
Right.
But then how does death fit into all of this?
That's a good question. I mean, it's not explicitly stated, but it does make you wonder.
Yeah.
Does death offer a release from that brutality, or is it just another form of it?
I don't know.
Right.
It's definitely something to think about.
Yeah.
There's also that line that really got me. Ignorance is brutal, not kind. It's kind of a stark statement, I think.
It is, and I think it really challenges the idea that ignorance is bliss,
Yeah.
It suggests that not knowing, whether it's willful or not, can have real consequences.
And that it can be harmful.
Exactly.
But then right after that, there's this really interesting contrast.
Oh, yeah, with the stone.
The stone. A stone within a wall is kind. More kind than them. What could that be about?
I think that's where the poem's use of symbolism gets really interesting.
Okay.
That stone, unchanging, impassive.
Right.
Maybe it represents something that transcends this whole cycle of brutality and kindness, like stoic acceptance,
What?
or even resistance to the chaos of the human world. It's almost pointing towards a different way of being.
Interesting. And then there's that really provocative part. Let's go humanity. Let's be brutal and more until it's all gone.
Yeah. That's a powerful
And
section.
it feels almost nihilistic, at least at first.
It does have that edge to it, doesn't it? But I wonder, maybe it's not so much about destruction, but more like a yearning to strip everything away, to go back to some primal state where brutality is just a fact of nature.
I see, yeah. Like without the moral weight we put on it.
Exactly.
And then we come to the final lines. Brutal. Forever.
Yeah.
And that word forever is just heavy.
It is. It really makes you think, doesn't it?
Hmm.
Is brutality just an inescapable part of the human experience?
Right.
Or is there some way to reconcile it with the softer parts of ourselves?
Mm-hmm.
Can we find some kind of balance within that forever?
That's the real question, isn't it?
Yeah.
This poem doesn't give us any easy answers.
No, it doesn't.
It just forces us to confront some really uncomfortable truths about ourselves, about the world we live in.
Yeah.
And maybe, just maybe, that's the first step towards something different.
Maybe it is.
All right, well, a lot to think about.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive.
My pleasure.
Until next time.
See you then.